Hello viewers, today we're going to take a look at this Eskimo box fan, model 121050B. This is having some significant bearing issues. I don't know if you can hear it on the video, but in the flesh it's pretty annoying. And I think that noise is going to be the bearings. Oh, actually maybe it's not. Because by holding it down like this, it shouldn't be moving up and down. I don't know. It's hard to say. There's really not any play forwards and back. There's a lot of rattle though. That's the sound. It's going to be the bearings, I think. What is that hitting? Well, I don't think we're going to be able to stop that, but we'll give it a shot. That's kind of comical to me. There's oil on the nut, but there's probably no oil in the shaft. It definitely needs oil, but I think the problem is it's going to be and the bearings are going to be rooted. And there's no fixing that. Well, unless you machine new bearings or something, which I don't have the equipment to do that. We'll oil it, and it may quiet it down a little bit, but it likely will only be a temporary fix. It'll probably start rattling again not long into the future, which stinks because this is a really nice piece cosmetically. Now, I have been warned about these motors that the the windings will grab the rotor as it pulls out. It doesn't look like it would. It looks like it's very close, but it doesn't look like it would do that. But I'm going to keep that in mind as I split it apart, that could possibly happen. Where's the... There it is. Okay, so it's not that size. It's not that size, then what size is it? It's not that size. I don't understand what size it is. Now, there's some commentary, stupid commentary of course, about this fan, and this particular entity states, oh, the motor is built backwards because it spins backwards and that's why it doesn't last so long. That's a bunch of baloney. The rotation of the motor, be it clockwise or counterclockwise, has nothing to do with the longevity of the fan. Not to mention it's not built backwards, that's how it was intended to be. Alright, so let's see what we have here. The rear shell seems to want to break free, but the front shell not so much. I'd rather start with the front shell because the windings go through the back. Well, I had no issues with it grabbing the grabbing the windings. It seemed to come out just fine. There's not much oil in here at all. And it's got one of these kind of washers to take up all the slack. I don't like these. I don't like those at all. Makes it very difficult to work with. Because what happens is when you tighten it up, it kind of compresses down a bit. And you can see all the wear, even for the low hours that's on this machine. You can see all the wear that's already taken place. And it's probably doing a number on the washer here. Everything in here is all dried out and sticky. It's like old, sticky, dried up lubricant. So that's why it's not rotating freely. Can definitely fix that, no problem. But I'm not so sure that we're going to be able to fix the, I'm not so sure we're going to be able to fix the rattling noise. I suspect it will go away when I reassemble the fan, but I don't expect it to stay away for very long. These, as cool as they are, were pretty cheap fans, and the motors were pretty cheap. I hate to say it because it sounds wild, but this was like the equivalent of the 3733 back in the era. These were not quality built fans. This is practically like cardboard. Look at all the wear on the bearing, even just from a couple of hours of operation that this thing has on it. Pitiful. I'm kind of inclined to not even put that back on. I don't really think it's going to make much of a difference on the noise level. I guess I'll just leave it there. Even the back of the shaft, look how worn out it is already. That's ridiculous. And you can clearly see the problem here. See how one side of it has wear scoring on it and the other side doesn't? What that indicates is that when this is in the bearings, it's not going like this, you know, being like this. It's kind of going like this in the bearing, and only one side is making contact. That's ridiculous, but that's what's happening, and that's what the sound is. Now, what I would like to try to do someday, and maybe this fan will be a candidate, is I want to drill these rivets out, replace them with a nut and bolt, and screw a ball bearing in there. That's the only way I know of how to fix that, because I don't have the equipment to machine new bearings, and the cost of that is likely impractical. Bearings are cheap. I get bearings for 15 beans for this thing, and they'll last. I can't imagine that the bearing is made out of copper, but that's what it looks like. Well, that's really all I can do as far as that's concerned. I could possibly, I don't think it'll make a difference in the sound, but I kind of want to take those stupid things out of there. These things, I don't really like those. I'm going to try it without it. See if it makes any difference. Maybe too much play in this motor now. Now let's see. If we put it back together and it's quiet, then those things are staying out. Yeah, the screw holes aren't lined up correctly. I actually find this motor comes apart very easily. I was expecting this to be some kind of a nightmare because of that comment, but I'm not finding that this has any issues at all. Okay, now we need to check and make sure that the motor is going to be aligning correctly without those washers in there. I'm pretty sure that it will, but I'll check it before I power it on. Seems fine to me. And oddly enough, I don't feel any more play in the shaft. I didn't really do anything that should have changed the play, but if it's what I'm looking for, I'm not going to question it. Get that dust out of the motor. And now for the oil. We're going to put oil directly into the shaft because I didn't put any in there when I reassembled it, so we'll put a couple drops right onto the shaft itself. I don't feel any play in there at all. That's weird. It's great, but it doesn't really make any sense. Well, let's fill this up and we'll just hope for the best. These poor bearings probably haven't had oil in decades. I'm putting a lot in there. It's going to take some time for that to seep in and get into the bearing and everything. It's not going to, you're not going to see the effects of that oil well, in 5 seconds. It takes time to seep itself in. Okay. We'll plug it back in, because supposedly you can't mess with the equipment while it's plugged in. And I'm going to take the blade and put it towards the front end of the notch, because it was hitting the motor before. So it's in the notch now. I'm going to pull it all the way forward and then tighten it up. And now it's not hitting anything anymore. Bearings is much happier than they were before. Beautiful. Silent bearings. And it's in pretty good balance too, so I find it odd that it was screwed up. Now, I'm leery of it. I don't think it's going to last, because I didn't change anything. But it's working good for now. I'll hold on to these things, but I just don't like that design. I never have. So I'm not going to use that for now. This is a little tricky to get this to wind up correctly. I don't really like the way this guard attaches. It works, it's cheap. Land saw is better than what we have today, but it's cheap. Okay. And it runs quietly. I don't know why. I don't know where all the play in the shaft went. Well, I don't care. It's quiet now, so I'll enjoy it while it's quiet. And if it gets loud again, maybe I'll have to try to retrofit some ball bearings in there. I think that's the only way to fix it real long term.